I could actually interfere with your process by trying to help you.
Yeah,
Like, I want to
absolutely.
make things easier for you. This clearly is uncomfortable. Let me help you get to a decision.
Right,
But in fact, in this moment, it's not about a decision.
right. So you also brought up play earlier, and I just want to come back to that because I I like to give people actual exercises to do with
Hmm.
what do you do with yourself while you're so we said, okay, so what if you take these two oppositional thoughts or feelings or realities? You have these two realities. Okay, so let's sit with them. That is often the language we use. Can you just sit with that? Can you sit with those? Can we sit
Hmm.
with these? I I I like that idea, but I do much better personally walking with it
Yeah. Right. Right.
or
Yeah.
or dancing with it or moving my body, exercising with it. But it does take some active intention to say, I am not walking away. I'm not getting up and leaving these problems. I'm not getting up and I'm going to like go for a jog so that I'm not thinking about this. I'm actually going to bring them with me on purpose. Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast for people who are ready to custom build their love.
We're talking about non-monogamy, however you design it, as an individuation opportunity.
Want to leave the default and make your life spectacularly you? You're in the right place. Ken, we have a listener question today that is right up my alley because as soon as I saw it, I was like, maybe they were hoping for a simple answer, but what I have instead is a depth psychological answer for
Great.
them.
What's the question?
So the question is, the listener wrote in about they were practicing non-monogamy for a couple of years now, and they feel philosophically aligned. They believe in it. They want the lifestyle, but they keep running into intense moments of feeling torn. They're flip-flopping. They keep finding themselves like part of them wants freedom and exploration and feels really aligned with non-monogamy, and another part of them it wants to be in that like Disney story, one and only. And also now that they've been dating a while, now they're also struggling a little bit with like, okay, when I have multiple partners, I feel really, really lucky, but also I have to deal with so many times when I want this and that, this or that. And so struggling with what
Well,
I would say is a lot of inner conflict.
yep, that it sounds like well, not sounds like, I happen to know that that's a really common situation to be in from all the people that I've talked to in the year of opening and
Yeah.
elsewhere. Yeah, it happens all over the place.
Right. And I think the best part of this particular listener question was they wrapped up, it was a pretty long email, but they wrapped it up saying, how do I work with this without shutting down completely or abandoning myself? Right.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's a good
that
one.
right there,
Yep.
that's what leads me to think that we need to have a talk about the tension of opposites. And the tension of opposites is a Jungian concept that I find incredibly valuable in my own life. It is one of those concepts that it can sound a little esoteric and academic, but also it's very practical. It's a very practical like action we can take in our life when we're experiencing inner conflict, and we're all going to experience inner conflict over many things. But non-monogamy and paradigm shifting into a paradigm of relating that is focused on multiplicity is going to also just invite more opportunities for you to experience inner conflict because now
Right.
there's just more there's more opportunity there's also less clarity around the one way to do things as we move from a monogamous and a monocentric perspective, a mononormative perspective. Yeah, there's many ways to
Right.
relate and many ways to be relating. So we do introduce a reality in which we're going to be bearing a lot of tension of opposites. So this concept can be helpful.
All right. So tension of opposites. I think I understand what you mean. I mean, you've been trying to teach me this stuff for years now.
You've been
Uh,
listening. I know you
I have
have.
been listening,
And
and
you're in individuation alchemy where we talk about this all the time. So we talk about the year of opening on this podcast a lot. We rarely mention individuation alchemy.
that's
That's like
true.
the secret menu item of working with Jolie. So once a year, I very quietly, without really mentioning very much at all, run a small group container for people who just want to do the depth psychological inquiry. So you
Yeah.
have been present for now
I've
2
been in
years
them.
of that,
Yep.
and
And yeah, it's
this is
not
the stuff we're doing.
it's about my side of the relationship. It's about me, my relationship with me, essentially.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
wow, so valuable. And yeah, this has come up in a few different ways.
So this particular tool, I think you're great at it when you remember to use it. So I want to give
Mm.
you a lot of compliments around that. And I know that there are parts of you that that just don't want to remember it. So just like, and
Well,
me too. I
absolutely.
don't always want to remember that I can use this particular
No, because
technique.
there are plenty of parts to me that want to rush to resolution. I
Yeah.
have an inner conflict. I want to solve it and get to the next thing, whatever it might be, and just not be in that moment anymore. And then you've shown me that there's value in being in that place between these two opposites.
Right. Okay, so let's define the terms just off the top. So if an inner conflict is a psychological state where you're feeling opposing thoughts, feelings, desires, values, right? You're feeling that within yourself. And this creates that sense, all the sensations of tension, confusion, distress. People will often say things like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. This doesn't all fit.
Yeah.
It can feel like there are unbearable decisions that you need to make, but also don't want to really align one way or another. Or there can actually be physical sensations in the body, sensations of tearing or pulling or flip-flopping. There can also be a whole bunch of arguments going on in your head. So it can just sound like a constant back chatter of all of the things you should be thinking about from both sides of a particular coin.
Yeah. And one of the things I experience is the frustration of that stuckness. Like I don't feel stuck so much just because of my own self. I feel that frustration, which leads to, like, for me, is this sensation of vibration through my whole body, which is really intense, and I don't like it.
Right. So, and that leads us to try to get out
Yep.
of the conflict.
Yeah.
And the fastest way out of a conflict from a sort of logical, positivist, rationalist perspective would be to make the correct decision.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have these two oppositional beliefs or choices or desires or values, choose the right one, Ken. Just choose the right
choose the right.
one
Yeah. Okay.
and make that choice.
Right.
But that actually moves us away from being with and doing what Jung talked about, it bearing the tension of opposites, which also takes us away from the idea, like it doesn't allow there to be multiple correct options. That's
Mm-hmm.
problematic all in itself, but
Right.
also, so Jung talked about how bearing the tension of opposites, holding steady and tolerating, and maybe even learning to enjoy the sensation of these two or more oppositional, like they're these forces. And I say two or more because sometimes we'll have multiple oppositional forces pulling at us at the same time.
Yeah.
But let's say I have these, like a really common one is, should I stay or should I go? Like, should I end a relationship? Should I stay in a relationship? Or should I be monogamous? Should I be polyamorous? Should I date this new person or should I not? Should I give my partner a hard and fast ultimatum or should I just go with the flow? Right? Like these are all examples of ways that we might feel the inner conflict, but they're also massive oversimplifications.
Yeah.
Because I can say each of those and any person might say, okay, well, clearly, like, well, let's figure it out. Let's break out the yellow legal pad. Let's make pros and cons lists. Let's go through and figure out what's the right decision. But bearing the tension of opposites is holding steady and allowing your personal psyche to hold these two oppositional forces long enough for the transcendent function to occur. The transcendent function is, I mean, it's not magic, except it is magic. The way you and I talk about magic, we talk about how, it's magic. And like birds are magic too. They're
Right.
they're awesome. But it is a function of the psyche. The transcendent function is when you hold steady in the face of, you hold all of this oppositional material, you allow yourself to not align with one side or the other, not allow yourself to be like co-opted into thinking that there's a right and a wrong here, long enough to make space for the third thing to be born. This doesn't necessarily mean some sort of compromised position that runs down the center,
Right.
but the third thing. And Jung called this the transcendent function, and he called it transcendent because it will make its way known. It'll make itself known to you in a sort of symbolic way. Often people will have a dream where they feel like, oh, wait, I have new clarity. Hang on, this dream clearly has something for me. Or they'll experience through creatively working with this material without trying to decide, they'll experience, oh, there's a lot more. This tension of these two opposites, there's a lot more option here. It doesn't have to be this or that. And Jung used the word transcendent. I mean, to refer to a transition from one psychological state of being to another. So often when we're in that tension, we're feeling so stuck. And so the transcendent function is a great way to describe what it feels like to finally feel the release of stuckness, because a third thing is born. The thing that we couldn't even imagine before is now here. This is now my existence.
And that's why we call it magic, because from this state where I feel trapped between these two things, all of a sudden, it's not a trap. There are other ways out.
Right.
And that relief is a good word for it.
So there are a couple of quotes that I use all the time when I'm thinking about or working with the tension of opposites myself, to just kind of center myself on the fact that it's not about me deciding too fast. Because my style is a very quick, discerning style. I tend to make decisions really quickly. I tend to assess things very quickly. And so the pull that I will feel to just make a decision immediately is so strong. I use a couple of quotes to kind of ground me. One is from Jung himself. It's from, I actually have the book open here. It's from Collected Works 13. It's a really simple quote. The greater the tension, the greater the potential. Greater energy springs from correspondingly great tension of opposites. Sounds like basic physics to me. I don't know.
It does to me too. And
right?
yeah.
And Jung was always in dialogue with the physicists of his time. And I think that particular quote just reminds me, like, as I'm feeling this sensation of, should I do this or should I do that? Or should I align with this reality, this partnership's reality, or that simply allowing myself to experience that tension, it's not a bad thing. It's a creative thing. So just grounding into that word, that idea, oh, right, this is me being with the creative potential that's here.
So I love that. Sitting there, experiencing this frustration that I described, and you're describing that one of my options in that moment is to play with it, express about the frustration. Don't try to solve it.
And that is what Jung was doing himself during his own dark night of the soul, which went on for 6 years back in the early 1900s. It wasn't a dark night. It was a dark many years of, by day, working with his clients, seeing his patients, and being a husband and a father, and which was certainly a different thing for a white European man of that time period. But, but still, like, having a regular day-to-day life, and at night, writing endlessly in journals, having inner dialogues with his inner figures, painting, making immense, like, huge swaths of artwork, painting the images that were coming from his dreams. And then during his midday break, going to the lakeside, and playing in the mud and building sandcastles. And he wrote about those acts, the play, the allowing himself to talk with his inner figures and allowing himself to just build sandcastles the way he would have when he was a little boy, as a non-optional part of his psychological
Hmm.
work. So, yeah, letting ourselves be in this creative tension isn't just about, can I solve it? Like, so let's move away from the idea of solving it, and also moving away from the idea that we have to fix ourselves. Like, and it all is about work. And instead, yeah, bring some element of, what if I stay with this in a way that is playful enough that I can psychologically bear it, that I can emotionally bear it, without rushing. Um, there's another quote from Marie Louise von France. She says, if we can stay with the tension of opposites long enough, sustain it, and be true to it, then we can sometimes become vessels within which the divine opposites come together and give birth to a new reality. And that particular quote, I'll put the citations in the show notes. That one's from Archetypes and Symbols. But I it's such a reminder to me that these problems that I have are also my opportunity to just be present to the divinity within, to the fact that life is not meant to be simple and one-sided.
So the problems bring in a bunch of energy that we then have the opportunity to use for something new.
Right.
Wow,
Now
that
that
is
said,
magic.
that is magic. But when we're talking about this, okay, so now I know y'all have hung in there with me for 15 minutes of just straight up depth psychological stuff. What does this mean for non-monogamy? So in our non-monogamous paradigm shift, especially, remember, we're talking about a paradigm shift is going to take 3 to 5 years of continually allowing this change, this transformation. 3 to 5 years in the cocoon. Like, you are transforming your psyche. You are participating in it. And there can be such a focus on rushing to learn the right rules, um, to learn how to align with the new reality. But that takes us from, it's like trying to be a caterpillar and then just immediately be a butterfly. You skip all the gooey part. We got to be in the gooey part. We got to be in the
Yeah.
chrysalis and allow ourselves to be in the goo. And I think of tension of opposites work as being one of the things that it feels like when we're in the goo. It's not the only thing, and this is just one concept, but if I'm working with someone who's deeply disturbed by the question of, do I stay in my current partnership? I love this current partnership. I'm committed to it. And also, I feel committed to myself and the fact that as I've learned about non-monogamy and I've learned about it as a path for myself, it feels authentic and true. And so what do I do if my partner is not equally enthusiastic? What do I do? And so many of us make that what do I do about who do I have sex with or where do I get my next date? And instead of that, I would ask you, can you be with this tension of, why are you drawn in both directions? How does it feel? What two realities are at play here? And what are we not seeing yet? Because jumping from one
What are
set of
we
rules
not
to
seeing
another,
yet?
what are we not seeing yet?
Yeah.
And that takes time.
Yep.
It just takes time. So many of my clients, my friends who've done this paradigm shifting work, we get into it. Myself, as I was shifting, I remember being about 3 or 4 months in and being like, okay, I know some language now. This is going to get better real soon, right?
Right.
And the answer was yes and no. It was going to get better, as in I was going to get more comfortable with the fact that, oh, this is a big transition. I
Yeah.
am experiencing myself in entirely new ways. So there's all the outer stuff and all the outer, all the ways that, like, I have 2 or more parties I want to go to. I have 2 or more partners I want to be with. I have partners that want to take me in different directions, but also all these inner tensions. Holding steady and not rushing to try to be figured out and fixed is part of paradigm shifting. Like, that in itself is a part of the work. And it's really uncomfortable for a lot of us.
Mhm.
I do think some people bear it a little bit more gracefully, but,
Well, it's
lucky
like,
them. It's
yeah,
not me.
it's like but it's like anything else, we have our individual differences in how we experience different psychological states. And then there's the fact that sometimes it's easier to bear than others.
Yeah,
It depends on what's going on in your life. It depends on the domain that the conflict is in for inside you. And that's all fine. That's all just how it is.
right.
And so I've been thinking about like what's a real good example of something like this. And I keep coming back to, so a lot of people have been raised in a monogamous culture,
Mhm.
and they're surrounded by monogamous stories, and the paradigm is everywhere. And then at some point they get to feeling they're in a committed relationship, they're in a monogamous relationship, and then they're saying, okay, this is great, I love this. And then they start having a relationship with someone else that they're like, um I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm monogamous, but these things that are happening inside me, these feelings I'm having for someone, maybe they're sexual, maybe they're other kinds of feelings, but they're like, "Oh, this is stuff that's supposed to be part of my monogamous relationship, and that's it. That's the paradigm."
Yeah,
And there you go. There's a tension of opposites. From a monogamous paradigm, you can't have your monogamous relationship and also have another, certainly sexually intimate relationship.
yeah,
You're not supposed to do that. There's an inner conflict, but like if you let yourself be yourself and have those feelings, like, oh crap, I'm stuck between two things that are not supposed to coexist.
yeah.
Solving it would be just like jumping right to divorce and jumping into the other
I did that.
relationship.
Wait, is that not what that was not that done what not the way? Oh, yeah.
It's one
Wait, this
way.
is this is very much I say this all the time, but please don't do as I did. I don't
No.
recommend it. The way I got into non-monogamy, was to make every mess I possibly could.
Yeah.
And I don't regret my divorce, but I did exactly that. It was like I just immediately jumped
Hmm.
because these two realities couldn't coexist. And
Yeah.
my husband at the time felt similarly. These can't coexist. So, okay, so we're done. Boom. 45 days.
Yeah.
That's
That's quick.
so fast
So
to end
fast.
a 17-year relationship. But it's not the divorce that bothers me. It's the fact that we didn't each individually take the time to
There it
learn
is. Yep.
what is going on in
Yep.
here.
There was
How
the
did this ever
opportunity.
what does this even mean? Because I don't think we were meant to continue being partners. And I think we would have eventually realized, look, there's so many other ways we could live.
And so, on the one hand, you we're talking about a way of experiencing this conflict that makes it actually easier to bear. It's not actually just about standing there or whatever and just experiencing it, but actually finding ways to express it and play with it and actually release some of that inner tension through creativity and play and see what comes up. And somewhere, somebody had this experience, and whatever it was they did, they were like, wait a minute, what if I wasn't monogamous?
Right.
Then all of this stuff doesn't look the same. All of a sudden, you have a different set of problems.
Right. So that's it. So for me, the tension of being sexually attracted to someone new and also having fallen head over heels, spoiler alert, it was Ken who I fell for. Um,
Phew.
but when I did, it was my hyper alignment with the monogamous perspective and my then husband's hyper alignment. Like we tried to solve it, and when we could, every tool we used to solve it was a monogamous focused tool. Every framework, every mindset, every therapy session we went to, even with a supposedly poly friendly therapist, it was all approaching it from a monogamous perspective. And when I say monogamous, what I actually really want to say is a monotheistic perspective, a monocultural perspective, where there's a right way. There's a right way to do relating, and it's definitely not that. And had we given ourselves the graciousness of time and space I think we still would have learned that we were done. And there would have been time to make visible what, like, what is this bringing up for each of us? What are the unlived lives that we're each experiencing? What are the parts of ourselves that are at war in here? Because during that time, it wasn't like, oh, we were just mad at each other. We were also mad within. Each of us was
Yeah.
experiencing massive inner conflict
Right.
and so much dissonance with, like, how can love be that way, right? Like, how can, and I see this come up a lot in people who are, they've come into non-monogamy often with rose-colored glasses, right? Like, they were super excited, they were really aligned with the idea of it, but then they start having experiences and those glasses get swapped out for a green pair. Jealousy enters the picture, or something just doesn't go the way they thought it would. Maybe dating is way harder than they expected it to be. And now they're experiencing the wait. If this isn't going to be the way I thought it was, then ick, yuck, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But again, that's aligning really hard with it has to be this or that. It either
Yeah.
has to be this picture of monogamy that I had, or it needs to be this new picture of polyamory that I've dreamed up. So learning to bear this tension is not just it's not just a nice to have. I think it's a necessity. And I think most of us, we could just use some more language to talk
Yeah.
about it, right? Because
Hmm.
one of the things I need to do with my partners, my friends, and even my kids is when I am noticing that I'm really in one of these intense, like the sensations of tearing apart are coming up. I'm lost in the inner conflict. I need to ask the people who I'm interacting with to please not hyper align with one side or the other, to please not try to fix or solve my problem. And at the same time, I might want to ask them, hey, could you be in a conversation with me? Could we puzzle through this without trying to solve it?
Hmm.
Um, and also, can I talk through it as if I'm aligned one way or another without anyone saying, "Oh, you've made a decision now," right?
Right.
Can we allow ourselves, can we make space to be in this in between? And that requires a way to talk about what we're doing in this in between while we're in the liminal space. I'm no longer where I was, but I'm not yet where I hope to or want to be. Um, and during all of that time, if I can't talk to the people around me, they are likely to also like rush me because it looks so uncomfortable. We don't want our people to be so
Right.
uncomfortable,
So
right?
I could actually interfere with your process by trying to help you.
Yeah,
Like, I want to
absolutely.
make things easier for you. This clearly is uncomfortable. Let me help you get to a decision.
Right,
But in fact, in this moment, it's not about a decision.
right. So you also brought up play earlier, and I just want to come back to that because I I like to give people actual exercises to do with the like
Hmm.
what do you do with yourself while you're so we said, okay, so what if you take these two oppositional thoughts or feelings or realities? You have these two realities. Okay, so let's sit with them. That is often the language we use. Can you just sit with that? Can you sit with those? Can we sit
Hmm.
with these? I I I like that idea, but I do much better personally walking with it
Yeah. Right. Right.
or
Yeah.
dancing with it or moving my body, exercising with it. Um, and but it does take some active intention to say, I am not walking away. I'm not getting up and leaving these problems. I'm not getting up and I'm going to like go for a jog so that I'm not thinking about this. I'm actually going to bring them with me on purpose.
Hmm.
So like I have a bunch of creative practices that I do and I suggest to people that help us feel the tension. Like one of my favorite is to come up with a playlist that contains both of these realities
Oh,
and
that's a
then
good one.
like hit the Spotify mix button and let them like mix together so I'm hearing them mixed together. So like, I mean it's okay, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of a mind fuck, right? If I'm going along and I'm
Yeah.
listening to like my favorite polyamorous music from poetry and like there's some great like really poly loving songs and
Yeah.
then I'm mixing that up with like classic 80s love ballads which are just all yeah, like okay, damn, I just invited this tension to just sit right here with me. I will take that absolutely for a walk or a run. Absolutely. Um, So that's one of the ways I will play with attention. Do you have any ways that you've
Well,
aligned with? I know I've
um,
shown you a bunch of
yeah, I
ways,
learned
but
this one from you, which is personifying the two ends, what are, the two poles, whatever you
yep,
wanted. There's two oppositional things, and just to have a different color pencil for each one,
yep.
and just open up a journal and start writing in the voice of each one. Just like have a conversation between them. Like I'm just recording it. I just write the first one's position in one color pencil, then pick up and write the other one's position, and then start the conversation. What goes back and forth between them?
I love the use, and I'll even change up, like I'll use like a marker for one and a pencil for like, so it's like
Oh,
really
okay,
different. Like I'll
really
just mix it up
stark.
as much as I
Hmm.
can. And I love that because to me, it's a little bit like the Jungian practice of active imagination. In active imagination, I'm lowering my consciousness level a little bit, letting myself get into that sort of murky, hazy phase, like between sleep and awake, and then talking out loud. I'm talking between these parts of myself. I'm letting,
Yeah.
and a lot of people get really nervous about talking to themselves. It just feels totally like they like, no, I can't.
Which in a
But
world with AirPods is, we shouldn't even worry about that
oh,
anymore because everybody's walking around talking to themselves.
it's true. But the journaling technique is much more comforting for
Yeah.
many people. And I also like that it also allows me to then get a third perspective, right? So if I'm now in my if I center myself in my day-to-day ego self and look at these two different voices, or if I center myself and I can connect to the capital S self, like my most grounded, wise, mature, I think of her as my inner grandmother, like what does she think of these two different voices? And then maybe start another journal page dialoguing between my wise, I have a very wise inner grandmother. Someday I want to be here. That sounds awesome. What does she have to say about all of this? Um, there are other ways too. I mean, if you're a dancer, if you're a person who likes to move your body, even if you're not, I don't consider myself a dancer at all, but I do like to move my body. And so allowing myself to just move my body in the way that these two poles inspire, these two different ways, and just letting that happen,
Hmm.
allowing that to happen.
Yeah. And I've used the piano.
Mm,
I'll sit down and like just touch the keys,
yeah.
no melody, anything particular, just like get myself into the space of one of the points of view and play a bunch and then switch into the other one
Yeah.
and play a bunch. And I haven't yet, but I've considered recording them and then playing them together, like playing them back to back and
Yeah.
listening for the musical conversation between them.
I love the idea of recording them. I've done that with some movement exercises. I don't do it enough, but when I have done a movement exercise and been witnessed, it's so powerful to simply be witnessed, even if the witness offers no actual
Hmm.
feedback. They're simply witnessing, um, and we can witness ourselves because we're all carrying around cameras and recording devices all the
Yeah,
time.
right.
So that it's another way. A few other creative options are, if I make two collages, if you're a collage style artist, I like to do paintings. I'll literally put two canvases up at the same time and just abstract paintings.
Yeah.
How do these two
And I want to
interact?
point out at this point that we talk about the tension of opposites, and it's not always just two. You might
Right.
need three canvases. You might, but
So that, yeah, the tension of opposites, the cool thing about that is like the polarity. We can feel the physical tension of this.
yeah.
And realistically, most of us will have also layers. I don't think of it so much as there being three, as there are usually lots of poles laid over each other. So we have this complicated,
Oh,
messy
yeah.
star.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I like that.
so if I'm feeling a lot of different dissonances, uh, that helps me actually feel into like humans do have this tendency to go into this or that and to imagine our world
Mm,
as this or that. And
hmm.
so bearing the tension of opposites also just allows us to step into, okay, so all of these binaries, like what if I let them exist and also refuse to over align
Mhm.
with one end or the other, and see what happens next. Um,
Well,
there are
I appreciate the number of creative outlets you've described for being in the tension of opposites,
it's
playing with the tension of opposites rather than simply enduring it.
right, right. And I
Yeah.
want to let me get even more practical, because sometimes I've had people who are like, "Yeah, I'm not doing any of that." Okay, do you work out? Go out to whatever kind of workout you do. What are two different ways? Like, let yourself experience two oppositional forces in your workout. Like,
Hmm.
what would happen? We used to do some really funny workouts where we'd intentionally have people do like really big macro movements where they're moving their whole body, big muscle groups, and then ask them to do things like thread a needle or arrange Scrabble tiles into a word. And the idea was to simply be in this, like, oh, we don't actually get to be just one thing all the time. It's meant to be playful. Another thing I enjoy doing is like looking for evidence of that, like looking for the evidence all around you that another reality is possible. So somebody might be just listening to this podcast saying, I don't know whether I'm monogamous or non-monogamous. I don't know how to make this decision. I don't even know whether I want to align with wait, I don't even want to label. Stop it. Yeah. So listening to a bunch of different podcasts talking about different perspectives on how we relate, that in itself could be a way of staying in the tension of opposites if you're not looking for one of us out here teaching about this to be right. And just let us
Hmm.
be voices keeping you company along the way while you let your reality form and reform. So the transcendent function happens when we also allow the symbolic to come forward, right? So one of the things we can do is simply be open to the fact that we might have a dream that has information for us while we're bearing this tension of opposites. We might have many dreams. So you can start writing your dreams down. And you could choose to work with someone skilled in dream work, but you can also work with your dreams yourself. There are some great resources for that. We can put a couple of really good resources in the show notes. Um, Also, just looking for what symbols are showing up in your life. Like, what's just start noticing. You're not going looking for them. Just start being open to the fact that you may receive more symbolic information than you would imagine in just your regular day-to-day modern life. At the start of every individuation alchemy group, I ask people to do some awareness building around like what symbols keep showing up. And so I'll have people just notice. We're just noticing. We're not trying to go find them. We're just noticing. And every year, people are stunned with like, oh my gosh, like I saw snakes everywhere. I saw real snakes. I saw a cartoon snake while my kid was watching TV. I saw snakes pop up on my Instagram feed. I went out for a walk. I see a snake. I saw a toy snake at the store. Like there were snakes everywhere. Okay, cool. From there, we can do some another step. We can work with that symbol. What does the snake mean to you? What does snake mean? Capitalize it. What does snake mean to you? Who is snake? Do you want to interact with this snake? Do you want to dialogue with snake? And I know that might sound kooky, but it can be really fun. You could also take that to another level. You could do some amplification, and you could look at what has snake meant to other people at other times. You could look in a symbolic dictionary. You can Google it. You could ask AI, what does snake mean symbolically? When we interact on the symbolic level, we still have to stay out of that desire though to solve it. Like, oh, snake has the answer. I'll just do what snake says.
Yeah, right. They're just one of those voices there to keep you company.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And James Hillman was famously always saying, just stay with the image. So if you do experience a symbolic reality, if there's like, oh, there is this, oh, snake is here. Okay, stay with that image. Maybe draw the snake, draw your snake. Um, Put a snake on your shelf on your desk that you can see, and just allow yourself to interact with that energy. um it's all of this, everything we've said, also just leads me to wanting to say, I understand that sometimes we have to make a decision. Sometimes we will have to make a decision because we're up against an external deadline and something
Right.
we feel that we do not have any say over it, or we feel like, yeah, well, if I wait any longer, I don't want to be deciding by not deciding. So I'm going to balance all of this talk of bearing the tension of opposites with, yeah, and at some point you're also going to be making decisions. And the trick there from the perspective of the transcendent function would be to not align with the idea that you're choosing the right thing or that you're making this like whole choice. What if there is a new reality? And the new reality may look like it aligns more with one or the other. Like I identify as polyamorous at this point. So one could say I chose polyamory and I resolved and I'm no longer monogamous. Except anyone who has ever partnered with me would definitely be able to point out the ways in which I still embrace aspects of monogamy. I still embrace it for other people as well. I still enjoy. I can still thoroughly enjoy a rom-com because I enjoy those love stories as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it wasn't about having to choose one way or another or to demonize one or the other, but to just practice. Yep, these oppositional forces. The oppositionalness is how my human mind makes sense of the fact that it's way too big. It's all this life and all this reality is way too big to hold. So it's another way of making sense of the vast multiplicity.
Well, I feel like today we've talked about some really practical ways of dealing with a really common and often very messy and painful problem.
Yeah. And if anybody is feeling like, okay, this was all very overwhelming, it's okay. Maybe this episode isn't like it, maybe it's not landing in exactly the right moment. That is totally okay.
That's
But if
okay.
this did land and you're like, that, yeah, come join us. Let's talk about Year of Opening or Individuation Alchemy. Join us at one of the salons and let's talk about how you can use a depth psychological perspective to approach your life differently. That's what I do. That's what I'm here for. It's what I'm walking the world for, as far as I can tell. So I would love to talk to you. You can find us at openeasier.com. We have a free salon coming up pretty much almost every month. So you can look there and find when the next one will be. We'd love to see you.
Thanks, Jolie.
Thanks, Ken. You've done the work, the therapy, the reflection, the breakthroughs, and still some things feels unfinished. What if you're not stuck? What if instead you're standing at the threshold of transformation, but you don't yet know the language to describe what you're going through? I'm Dr. Jolie Hamilton, Jungian psychologist and guide in the work of individuation. In the Inner Alchemy series, we'll journey through the 4 phases of transformation. Nigredo, the dissolution. Albedo, the awakening. Citrinitas, the embodiment. Rubedo, the radiance. Because you were never meant to fix yourself. You were meant to find yourself. You are the alchemist, and your life is the laboratory.